I should have known the moment he ordered his drink in perfect Mandarin that my life was about to change forever. They say some people collect art. Others collect cars. Adrian Cross collected secrets. And on a freezing February night in Chicago, he decided to collect me. This is the story of how a single overheard conversation made me disappear from my old life and wake up in a world where luxury and danger sleep in the same bed, where every gift comes with invisible strings, and where falling in love might be the most dangerous game of all. Stay with me, because what happens next, you won't believe it until the very end. My name is Elena Martinez, and 3 months ago, I was nobody. Just another college dropout working double shifts at Celestine, an upscale fusion restaurant in downtown Chicago, trying to save enough money to finish my degree while sending whatever I could spare to my younger brother Miguel, who was battling leukemia back in San Diego. February 14th. Valentine's Day. The worst night to work in a restaurant. Couples everywhere, candlelight reflecting off champagne glasses, the air thick with expectations and expensive perfume. I'd been on my feet for 7 hours straight, my feet screaming in protest inside my worn black flats, my ponytail starting to come loose. I was carrying a tray of cocktails to table 12 when it happened. Someone bumped into me from behind. The tray tilted. Time seemed to slow as I watched a $17 martini arc through the air, spinning, the liquid catching the light like liquid silver. It landed directly in the lap of a man in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My heart stopped. He stood slowly, martini dripping from his charcoal gray pants, vodka darkening the fabric. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Even the piano player stopped mid-note. "Oh my God, I am so sorry, the words tumbled out as I grabbed napkins, my hands shaking. "Don't." His voice cut through my panic. Deep, controlled, with an edge like expensive steel. I looked up and forgot how to breathe. He was maybe 35. With dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on magazine covers, not in restaurants. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so pale gray they were almost silver. Eyes that were currently fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "It was an accident," he continued, and something in his tone made it clear this wasn't a question. "Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. Let me get you. What's your name?" He tilted his head slightly, studying me like I was a puzzle he was deciding whether to solve. "Elena. Elena Martinez." "Elena." He said it slowly, tasting each syllable. "Mexican. My father was from Mexico City. My mother was from Shanghai." I don't know why I added that detail. Nerves, probably. His eyes narrowed slightly, something shifting in his expression. "You speak Mandarin?" Before I could answer, Marcus, the floor manager, materialized beside us, his face flushed with panic and fury. "Sir, I am so deeply sorry. This is completely unacceptable." He turned to me, his voice dropping to a furious hiss. "Elena, go to my office. Now." "Actually," the man said, his voice cutting through Marcus's tirade like a blade, "I'd prefer if she stayed. I haven't finished ordering." Marcus blinked, confused. "Sir." The man, I still didn't know his name, pulled out his wallet, extracted what looked like a platinum American Express card, and handed it to Marcus without looking at him. His eyes never left my face. "This should more than cover the dry cleaning and any inconvenience. I'd like Elena to serve our table for the rest of the evening. It wasn't a request. And I believe she asked if I spoke Mandarin. I swallowed hard. I grew up bilingual. My mother insisted. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Interesting. Very interesting. I should have known then that something was wrong. Normal people don't react to having drinks spilled on them by requesting the clumsy server stay. Normal people don't look at you like they're cataloging every detail for future reference. But I needed this job desperately. Miguel's treatments were expensive, even with insurance. So I nodded, forced a professional smile, and followed him back to his table. Except it wasn't just his table. 3 other men sat there, all in expensive suits, all watching our approach with varying degrees of interest. But none of them had that same predatory stillness as the man I'd drenched in vodka. "Gentlemen," he said, settling back into his seat as if his pants weren't soaked. "This is Elena. She'll be taking care of us this evening." The man directly across from him, older with silver at his temples and cold blue eyes, raised an eyebrow. "Adrian, are you seriously keeping her here after she dumped a drink in your lap?" Adrian. So that was his name. "Consider it an opportunity," Adrian replied smoothly. "Elena, these are my associates. Mr. Chen, Mr. Volkov, and Mr. Blackwood." Mr. Chen was compact and elegant, probably in his 60s, with calculating eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Volkov was massive, built like a boxer who'd traded the ring for boardrooms but never forgot how to throw a punch. Mr. Blackwood was the one who'd spoken, sharp-featured and radiating the kind of wealth that came from generations, not just years. I pulled out my notepad with trembling hands. "Can I get you gentlemen started with drinks?" "Tell me, Elena," Adrian said, completely ignoring my question, "what do you think of this restaurant?" I blinked, thrown off balance. It's nice. That's not what I asked." His pale eyes bore into mine. "I asked what you think. Not what you think I want to hear." The other men exchanged glances. This was clearly some kind of test, though I had no idea what I was being tested for. I took a breath, deciding honesty was my only option. "I think it's pretentious. The food is good, but overpriced. The atmosphere is trying too hard. And the wine list is impressive until you realize half of it is marked up 300%. Silence fell over the table. I'd just insulted the restaurant I worked at to a table of men who probably owned half of Chicago. Then Adrian smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed his face, making him look younger, almost human. "Blackwood, you owe me $500. Blackwood cursed under his breath, pulling out his wallet. "You always could spot them." "Spot what?" I asked before I could stop myself. "People who think," Adrian replied, his eyes never leaving mine. "Now, about those drinks. I'll have a Macallan 25, neat. And Elena." He leaned forward slightly. "Ask me in Mandarin." My breath caught. This was definitely a test. But why? I switched languages smoothly, the tones coming naturally after years of my mother's insistence. "Ni xiong yao shen mi?" His smile widened. He responded in flawless Mandarin, his accent suggesting someone who'd spent significant time in Beijing. "Wa xiong yao ni zua wa defoni." "I want you to be my translator." The other men leaned forward, suddenly much more interested in the conversation. Mr. Chen's eyes had gone sharp, assessing me with new intensity. Before I could respond, My phone buzzed in my apron pocket. I normally never checked it during shifts, but I'd been waiting for a call from Miguel's doctor all day. The results from his latest scans were due. "Excuse me," I said quickly, taking a step back. "I'm so sorry, I just need to." Adrian raised a hand. "Take the call, Elena. We'll wait." I pulled out my phone, heart pounding when I saw the hospital number. "Hello, Miss Martinez. This is Dr. Roberts from San Diego General." The world seemed to narrow to just his voice. I was dimly aware that the table had gone quiet, that 4 sets of eyes were watching me, but all I could focus on was the doctor's next words. "I'm afraid the scans showed progression. The current treatment isn't working. We need to move to a more aggressive protocol, but I have to be honest with you, the costs are going to be substantial. Even with insurance, we're looking at around $50,000 out of pocket, and we need to start immediately." $50,000. I had $800 in my savings account. "I understand," I managed to say, my voice surprisingly steady. "Thank you for calling." I hung up, blinking back tears, trying to compose myself. When I looked back at the table, Adrian was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Bad news?" he asked quietly, switching back to English. I forced a smile. "Nothing I can't handle. Now about those drinks. Your brother is sick." Again, not a question. A statement. I froze. "How did you?" "The phone number that called you was San Diego General Hospital. You're wearing a yellow awareness ribbon pin on your apron. Childhood cancer. Your expression when you saw the number suggested someone close, probably family. You're young, which makes parents less likely. A sibling then." He tilted his head. "I'm guessing younger, given your protective instinct." The clinical analysis should have been creepy. Instead, it was oddly comforting. He understood. Or at least, he saw. "Leukemia," I heard myself say. "He's 12. The treatment isn't working. And you need money." Adrian pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then looked back at me. "How much?" "I can't." "How much, Elena?" "50,000, I whispered. "But I'm not asking for." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then showed me the screen. A wire transfer confirmation. $50,000 to San Diego General Hospital, marked for Miguel Martinez's account. My knees went weak. "I don't understand." "Consider it an advance on your new position," Adrian said calmly, as if he hadn't just casually transferred enough money to save my brother's life. "You start Monday. My office. 9 a.m. He pulled a business card from his pocket and held it out to me. I took it with shaking fingers. Adrian Cross, CEO, Meridian International. An address in the financial district. I don't know what to say. "Say yes." His pale gray eyes held mine. "Say yes, Elena, and everything changes. Your brother gets his treatment. You get out of this restaurant. And I get what I need, a translator I can trust. Someone who isn't already embedded in my world. Someone who thinks before they speak. Someone who's honest." What exactly would I be translating? I asked, some survival instinct finally kicking in. "What kind of business are you in?" His smile was sharp. The kind where languages matter. Where understanding what's being said, and what's not being said, can mean the difference between success and failure. Between life and death. Mr. Chen spoke for the first time, his English accented but precise. Mr. Cross has been looking for someone like you for quite some time, Miss Martinez. Someone with your particular combination of skills and circumstances. Circumstances. I echoed. Someone with something to lose, Volkov rumbled, his Russian accent thick. And something to gain. I should have run. Should have thanked them, refused the money, gone back to my simple, difficult, but safe life. Instead, I heard myself say, Monday, 9 a.m. I'll be there. Adrian's smile was triumphant. Excellent. Now, about those drinks. I got home to my shoebox apartment in Little Village at 2 in the morning, my mind still spinning. I'd served the 4 men for another 3 hours, translating snippets of Mandarin conversation, bringing course after course of food they barely touched, all while they discussed business in a mixture of languages: English, Mandarin, Russian, what sounded like French. And through it all, Adrian Cross watched me. Not constantly, not creepily, but in moments when he thought I wasn't looking. Like he was constantly reassessing, recalculating whatever equation I'd been plugged into. The tip they left was $5,000. $5,000. I sat on my lumpy second-hand couch, the money order in my trembling hands, and called Miguel. Lena. His voice was weak but happy. It's late. You okay? I'm perfect. Listen, the hospital called. They're starting the new treatment tomorrow. What? But we can't afford. It's handled. Tears ran down my face, but I was smiling. It's all handled, Miguel. You just focus on getting better, okay? We talked for 20 minutes, about nothing and everything. About his school friends who'd been visiting. About the new Marvel movie he wanted to see when he got out. About maybe, possibly, hopefully having a future. When we hung up, I looked at the business card Adrian had given me. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering. An address in one of those glass towers that scraped the Chicago sky. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. Adrian Cross was 36 years old. CEO of Meridian International, a consulting firm that worked with companies doing business in Asia, Russia, and the Middle East. On paper, completely legitimate. Prestigious clients. Impressive portfolio. He'd built the company from nothing 10 years ago, fresh out of Harvard Business School. But something nagged at me. The way those men at the table had deferred to him. The casual way he'd moved $50,000. The warning in Blackwood's voice when he'd said, "You always could spot them." I dug deeper, searching in Mandarin this time. That's when I found the whispers. Nothing concrete, just hints. Business deals that went through despite seeming impossible. Competitors who mysteriously withdrew from contracts. A lawsuit that disappeared without explanation. Adrian Cross was connected. But to what, exactly? I should have been terrified. Should have called him Monday morning and politely declined. Instead, I opened my closet and started figuring out what one wore to a job that might change everything. The Meridian International building was all glass and steel, soaring 70 stories above the Chicago River. The lobby alone was more impressive than any place I'd ever worked, with marble floors and a waterfall installation that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. Elena Martinez, I told the security guard, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. I have an appointment with Mr. Cross. He checked his tablet, then handed me a visitor badge. 68th floor. Ms. Park is expecting you. The elevator ride felt like ascending to another world. By the time the doors opened on the 68th floor, my heart was hammering. A woman in her 40s, elegant in a black suit, waited in the reception area. Miss Martinez. I'm Catherine Park, Mr. Cross's executive assistant. Welcome to Meridian. She led me through a maze of offices, all glass walls and expensive furniture. People worked quietly at computers, spoke in hushed tones on phones. It felt more like a library than a business. Mr. Cross is finishing a call, Catherine said, gesturing to a leather sofa outside an enormous corner office. He'll be with you shortly. Coffee. Tea. Coffee, please. Black. She returned with coffee in a real china cup, not paper, and a folder. Your employment contract. Standard confidentiality agreements, benefits information, salary details. Mr. Cross said to tell you the salary is negotiable if you have concerns. I opened the folder and nearly dropped my coffee. The starting salary was $250,000 a year. This has to be a mistake, I breathed. Catherine smiled slightly. Mr. Cross doesn't make mistakes when it comes to compensation. He values loyalty and discretion. That salary reflects both. Before I could process this, the office door opened. Adrian stood there, somehow even more imposing in the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Today he wore a navy suit that probably cost more than a car, his hair perfectly styled, those pale gray eyes sharp and assessing. Elena. Right on time. I appreciate punctuality. He gestured into his office. Please, come in. The office was massive, with a view that stretched across the entire Chicago skyline. Modern art on the walls. A desk that looked like a sculpture. And a conversation area with leather sofas that probably cost more than I'd ever made in a year. Sit, he said, taking the chair opposite me rather than going behind his desk, putting us on equal footing, or at least creating the illusion of it. Did Catherine give you the contract? Yes, but the salary is appropriate for your skills and the risks you'll be taking. I blinked. Risks. Adrian leaned back, crossing one ankle over his knee. Let me be completely honest with you, Elena. Something I suspect you'll appreciate. Meridian International is a legitimate consulting firm. Everything we do is legal. But our clients often operate in morally gray areas. We help them navigate complex international deals, understand cultural nuances, avoid costly mistakes. And I would translate. You would translate. You would interpret. You would help me understand not just what's being said, but what's being meant. His eyes held mine. Some of these clients are dangerous people, Elena. Not to you directly, but they operate in dangerous worlds. Arms dealers who need to know what their Chinese suppliers are really offering. Russian oligarchs trying to move money without attracting attention. Saudi princes negotiating with Beijing. All completely legal on paper, but, I prompted. But knowledge is valuable. And people who have valuable knowledge need to be protected. That's why the salary is high. Because you'll know things. See things. Hear things. And you'll need to be smart enough to know when to speak and when to stay silent. I thought about Miguel, about his treatment starting today. About the fact that I could actually afford to finish my degree now, To help my mother who'd been working 3 jobs to pay for Miguel's care. The confidentiality agreement, I said slowly. What exactly does it cover? Adrian smiled, and again it transformed his face. Everything. You don't discuss our clients. You don't discuss what you translate. You don't discuss anything you learn in this office. Ever. To anyone. And if I do, then you'll find out just how expensive breaking a contract can be. His tone was light, but the warning was clear. But I don't think you will. You have too much to lose. And too much to gain. He was right. I hated that he was right. I picked up the pen Catherine had left with the contract. Where do I sign? My first month at Meridian was an education in a world I'd never known existed. My official title was Senior Language Consultant, which sounded impressive and meant exactly what Adrian had described. I sat in on meetings, translated, interpreted, and tried not to think too hard about what was actually being negotiated. The first week, I translated for a Chinese pharmaceutical executive who wanted to buy a factory in Indiana. Straightforward. Boring, even. The second week, I interpreted at a dinner meeting between Adrian and a Russian businessman who smiled too much and whose bodyguard never left his side. They discussed shipping routes through the Arctic. Nothing illegal, but the way they spoke around certain topics made it clear there was a conversation happening beneath the conversation. The third week, I was asked to review documents in Mandarin for a client I never met. Technical specifications for something industrial. I translated dutifully, trying not to think about why the client didn't want to use their own translator. Throughout it all, Adrian watched my progress. Not obviously, but I'd catch him observing how I handled difficult translations, how I navigated awkward cultural moments, how I stayed professional when things got tense. He was testing me. Constantly. One evening, after a particularly difficult meeting with a Saudi client who'd been unhappy with some terms, Adrian asked me to stay late. Your Mandarin is excellent, he said, pouring 2 glasses of scotch without asking if I wanted one. But your Arabic needs work. I took the glass he offered. I don't speak Arabic. No, but you're going to learn. I've arranged for a tutor. 3 times a week. You'll also need to improve your Russian. You can understand it but you hesitate when speaking. And I'd like you to start learning Farsi. I stared at him. That's 4 languages. You're smart. You'll manage. He sipped his scotch. How is your brother? The question caught me off guard. Adrian never asked about my personal life. In fact, outside of work, we barely spoke. He's responding to the treatment. The doctors are cautiously optimistic. Good. He paused, then said, I have a trip coming up. Singapore, then Shanghai, then Tokyo. 10 days. I'll need you to come. Of course. When do we leave? Friday. 3 days. I'd never been out of the country. Didn't even have a passport. Adrian must have seen my expression because he smiled. Catherine has already expedited your passport application. It'll be ready Thursday. Business class all the way. And Elena. He set down his glass, his grey eyes serious. This trip is important. You'll be meeting some very significant people. People who will remember you. So I need you to be perfect. Perfect how? Perfectly professional. Perfectly discreet. Perfectly forgettable except when I need you to be memorable. He stood, moving to the window. The Chicago skyline glittered below us. I'm taking a chance on you, Elena. Don't make me regret it. We arrived at Singapore's Changi Airport after a 16-hour flight that I'd spent mostly awake despite the luxury of business class. Adrian had worked the entire flight, reading documents, making notes, occasionally asking me to clarify something in Mandarin. A car met us on the tarmac. Not just any car, a Rolls-Royce with a driver who handled our bags with white gloves. We're staying at the Marina Bay Sands, Adrian informed me as we drove through the impossibly clean streets. You have your own suite. We have meetings starting at 9 tomorrow morning with Mr. Tan from Prospera Industries. I'd done my research on the flight. Prospera Industries was a massive conglomerate with fingers in everything from shipping to real estate to technology. Mr. Tan was the CEO, a billionaire several times over, and notoriously difficult to work with. The hotel was even more impressive than I'd imagined. Our suites were on the 55th floor with views of the Singapore skyline that took my breath away. Get some rest, Adrian said as we stood in the hallway between our rooms. Tomorrow is crucial. But I couldn't rest. I was too wired, too aware that I was further from home than I'd ever been, doing a job I still didn't fully understand for a man who remained an enigma despite the hours we'd spent together. At midnight, unable to sleep, I went down to the hotel bar. I needed a drink and a moment to just exist without the weight of expectation. The bar was elegant and mostly empty, just a few other travelers and what looked like locals enjoying expensive cocktails. I ordered a glass of wine and tried to calm my racing thoughts. You look terrified. I turned to find Adrian sliding onto the stool beside me. He'd changed into jeans and a black t-shirt, looking more human than I'd ever seen him. I'm not terrified, I lied. You're gripping that wine glass like it's a life preserver. He ordered a scotch. First international business trip? First international anything. He nodded, taking his drink from the bartender. Want some advice? Always. Mr. Tan is going to test you tomorrow. He's going to say things in Mandarin that are deliberately crude, assuming I won't understand. He's going to try to unsettle you. Your job is to translate everything accurately but stay completely unfazed. Can you do that? I thought about my years working at restaurants, dealing with rude customers, handsy managers, impossible demands. I can do that. Good. He sipped his scotch. Because if tomorrow goes well, this is just the beginning, Elena. There are doors that will open for you. Opportunities you can't imagine. But you have to be strong enough to walk through them. And if I'm not? He looked at me then, really looked at me, those pale eyes seeing more than I wanted them to. You are. I wouldn't have brought you here if I had any doubt. The certainty in his voice did something strange to my chest. This man who barely knew me, who'd pulled me out of my old life on what seemed like a whim, believed in me. Why me, really? I asked. There must be hundreds of qualified translators in Chicago. Thousands, he agreed. But they all come with histories, connections, loyalties to other people, other companies. You came with nothing but talent and desperation. That made you valuable. That's pretty cold. I am pretty cold. He finished his scotch. But I'm also fair. You work hard, you're loyal, you're smart. You'll go farther with me than you ever could have on your own. Isn't that worth something? It should have felt manipulative. It should have felt like I was being used. Instead, it felt like the truth. The meeting with Mr. Tan went exactly as Adrian predicted. The man was in his 60s, sharp as a knife, and spent the first 30 minutes saying increasingly crude things in Mandarin about me while smiling pleasantly at Adrian. I translated every word without flinching, keeping my voice professional and my expression neutral. By the time Mr. Tan realized I was translating his insults directly, his respect was grudging but genuine. "She is a good one," he said in English finally. "Better than your last translator. That one couldn't handle pressure." "Elena can handle anything," Adrian replied, and the pride in his voice sent an unexpected warmth through me. The deal was signed. Millions of dollars in contracts. And I'd helped make it happen. Over the next week, we moved through Singapore, then Shanghai, then Tokyo. Meeting after meeting, dinner after dinner. I translated for Russian oligarchs and Chinese officials, Japanese businessmen and Korean investors. I learned to read the subtle signals Adrian would give me, a particular look that meant, "Pay attention to this," a gesture that meant, "We're leaving soon," a tone that meant, "That was a lie." We were becoming a team. And somewhere along the way, my awareness of him shifted from professional respect to something more complicated. It was the little things. The way he'd appear with coffee in the morning, already knowing how I took it. The way he'd check in after difficult meetings to make sure I was okay. The way he'd translate something for me when we encountered a language neither of us spoke, making it a joke between us rather than an obstacle. On our last night in Tokyo, Adrian took me to a restaurant that didn't have a name, just a door in an alley that you had to know about. 8 seats around a counter. A chef who served whatever he wanted. "This is my favorite place in Tokyo," Adrian said as we settled onto the wooden stools. "No one knows about it. No one will bother us here." The meal was incredible. Course after course of flavors I'd never experienced, each one a tiny work of art. "Thank you," I said during a pause between courses. "For all of this. For the job, for my brother, for..." I gestured around us. "For showing me this world." Adrian was quiet for a moment, his gray eyes reflecting the dim lighting. "You earned it, Elena. Every bit of it." "Did I?" I looked down at my hands. Sometimes I feel like I stumbled into something I don't fully understand. Like I'm playing a game and I don't know all the rules. "You are," he said simply. "But you're learning fast. Faster than anyone I've worked with." "What's the end game?" I asked. "Of this game we're playing?" His jaw tightened slightly. "That depends on how far you're willing to go." Before I could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his entire demeanor changed, tension radiating from him. "What's wrong?" "We need to leave. Now." Back at the hotel, Adrian made 3 rapid phone calls in a mixture of English and what sounded like Russian, his voice clipped and urgent. I'd never seen him like this, the perpetual control fractured, revealing something harder and more dangerous underneath. "Talk to me," I said when he finally hung up. "What's happening?" He paced to the window, looking out at the neon-soaked Tokyo streets. "There's a problem. One of my competitors, a man named Vincent Hale, has been making moves against me. Talking to my clients, trying to undermine my contracts. Today he approached Mr. Tan with a better offer. Can he do that? We already signed. Contracts mean nothing if someone offers enough incentive to break them." He turned to face me. "Hale is dangerous, Elena. not just as a business rival. He plays dirty. And now he knows about you. Cold fear trickled down my spine. What do you mean, he knows about me? He's had investigators following us, taking photos, building a file. Adrian's expression was grim. He's going to try to use you against me. How? By threatening you. By implying that working with me puts you in danger. By making you afraid. His pale eyes burned into mine. Are you afraid? I should have been. Any rational person would have been. But standing there, looking at this man who'd changed my entire life in a matter of weeks, I felt something else entirely. No, I said. I'm not afraid. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in that carefully maintained control. He closed the distance between us in 3 strides, his hand coming up to cup my face with unexpected gentleness. You should be, he said softly. You should be terrified. Because men like Hale don't play fair. And men like me. He trailed off, his thumb brushing across my cheek. Men like me destroy everything we touch eventually. Is that a warning? My voice came out breathier than I intended, my heart hammering against my ribs. It's a promise. But he didn't step back. Didn't let go. Elena, I need you to understand something. When I brought you into my world, I thought I could keep you safe. Keep you separate from the dangerous parts. But I was wrong. There is no separate. There's only in or out. Then I'm in, I heard myself say. His eyes searched mine, looking for doubt, for fear, for hesitation. You don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. I placed my hand over his, still cupping my face. I've been in since the moment you paid for Miguel's treatment. Since the moment you looked at me like I was worth something more than just another server in a restaurant. I'm in, Adrian. Completely. The kiss, when it came, was inevitable. Fierce and desperate, tasting of whiskey and danger and all the weeks of tension that had been building between us. His other hand tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I went willingly, pressing against him like I could somehow merge into his strength. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. This complicates things, he said, but there was no regret in his voice. Everything about you is complicated. He laughed, the sound rough and genuine. Fair point. My phone rang, the shrill sound cutting through the moment. Miguel's ringtone. I pulled away, answering immediately. Lena. Miguel sounded excited. Guess what? The doctors say I can go home next week. The treatment worked. I'm in remission. Tears flooded my eyes. Miguel, that's amazing. We talked for 10 minutes, Miguel's joy pouring through the phone, making plans for when he got home, talking about returning to school and seeing his friends and all the normal wonderful things he'd been missing. When I hung up, I found Adrian watching me with an expression I'd never seen before. Something softer, more human. Your brother? He asked. I nodded, wiping tears from my cheeks. He's in remission. He's going home. Adrian pulled me into his arms, holding me as I cried happy tears against his chest. That's good, Elena. That's really good. And standing there, wrapped in the arms of a dangerous man in a Tokyo hotel room, I realized I'd fallen into something I could never escape from. Not my job. Not the contracts or the secrets or the money. Him. I'd fallen for Adrian Cross, and there was no going back. I moved out of my shoebox apartment in Little Village. Adrian arranged for a beautiful loft in River North, his building, 3 floors below his penthouse. For security, he said, but we both knew it was about more than that. Miguel came home from the hospital the following week. I flew to San Diego to help Mom get him settled, to see the color returning to his cheeks, to watch him laugh without it turning into a cough. "Who's the guy?" Miguel asked one evening when Mom was in the kitchen. At 12, he was too perceptive for his own good. "What guy?" "The one who paid for my treatment. The one who's paying for everything." He fixed me with a surprisingly adult gaze. "You think I don't know? That kind of money doesn't just appear. Lena." I sat beside him on his bed, covered in superhero sheets he'd had since he was 8. "His name is Adrian. He's my boss." "Just your boss?" Miguel raised an eyebrow, so much like our father it made my chest ache. "It's complicated. Is he good to you?" The question was simple but loaded with all the worry of a little brother who'd grown up too fast. "Yes," I said honestly. "He is." "Then I like him." Miguel settled back against his pillows. "Just be careful, okay? Guys who can make $50,000 appear with a phone call. They usually want something in return." He was right. The question was, what did Adrian want? And was I willing to give it? Vincent Hale made his move 3 weeks after we returned from Asia. I was working late at the office, reviewing contracts in Mandarin for an upcoming deal, when Catherine knocked on my open door. "Someone to see you," she said, her expression carefully neutral but her eyes warning. "He says it's urgent." I followed her to the reception area where a man waited. Mid-40s, expensive suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Behind him stood 2 people, a woman with a camera and a man with a tablet. "Elena Martinez," the man said, extending his hand. "Vincent Hale. I've heard so much about you." I didn't take his hand. "Mr. Hale, what can I do for you?" "Actually, I'm here to do something for you." He gestured to the woman, who pulled up photos on her tablet. "These were taken over the past month. You, entering Adrian Cross's building at various hours. Sometimes leaving in the morning, wearing the same clothes you wore the night before." My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. "I fail to see how my personal life is your concern." "Oh, it's not your personal life I'm interested in." Hale's smile widened. "It's the information you have access to. Client lists, contract details, negotiation strategies. I imagine Adrian trusts you with quite a lot, doesn't he?" "This conversation is over." I turned to Catherine. "Please escort Mr. Hale out." "Wait." Hale pulled out a business card. "I'm prepared to offer you 3 times whatever Adrian is paying you, plus a signing bonus of $500,000. All you have to do is bring me copies of his client files." The offer hung in the air. Life-changing money. Enough to secure Miguel's future, to pay for Mom's retirement, to set myself up forever. "No," I said simply. Hale's expression hardened. "You should think carefully about this, Miss Martinez. Adrian Cross isn't who you think he is. The people he works with, the deals he makes, they're not all as clean as they seem. Do you really want to tie your future to someone who might not have one much longer?" "Get out." My voice was ice. "Now." After Hale left, I stood in the reception area, shaking with adrenaline. Catherine touched my arm gently. I'll let Mr. Cross know what happened. Where is he? Meeting with clients. He'll be back in an hour. I returned to my office but couldn't focus. Hale's words echoed in my mind. Adrian Cross isn't who you think he is. The thing was, I'd never presumed to know who Adrian really was. I knew what he showed me. I knew how he made me feel. But his past, his full business dealings, the extent of his connections, those were still mysteries. When Adrian finally returned, Catherine must have briefed him because he came straight to my office, his expression thunderous. Tell me exactly what Hale said. I recounted the conversation, watching as Adrian's jaw tightened with each detail. 3 times your salary, he said when I finished. That's a serious offer. I know. But you turned him down. Of course I did. I stood, moving around my desk to face him. Did you think I wouldn't? Something in his expression softened. I hoped you wouldn't. But Hale is persuasive. And desperate people do desperate things. I'm not desperate anymore. Thanks to you. Which makes you even more valuable. He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. Hale won't stop here. He'll dig deeper, look for other ways to pressure you. Your family, your friends, your past. He'll use whatever he can find. Fear flickered through me. Miguel. I've already arranged security. Discreet, but effective. Your brother and mother won't even know they're being protected. His pale eyes met mine. I won't let him hurt you, Elena. Not through your family. Not at all. The conviction in his voice made my chest tight. What aren't you telling me about Hale? Why does he hate you so much? Adrian moved to the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline. We have history. 5 years ago we were partners. Briefly. I discovered he was selling client information to competitors. When I confronted him, he tried to frame me for embezzlement. His voice was flat, emotionless. I had better lawyers, better evidence. He went to prison for 18 months. Lost everything, his reputation, his clients, his firm. And now he wants revenge. Now he wants everything I have, including you. The possessiveness in that last word sent heat through me despite the seriousness of the situation. He can't have me. I've already chosen. Adrian turned from the window, closing the distance between us in 3 strides. Do you understand what that means? Choosing me. I think I'm starting to. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing across my cheekbone. It means no more normalcy. No more safe, predictable life. It means being pulled deeper into my world, with all its dangers and complications. I know. It means being mine. His voice dropped lower. Completely. My breath caught. Is that what you want? For me to be yours? Elena. My name was almost a groan. I've wanted that since the moment you spilled that martini in my lap and looked at me like I was just another entitled asshole in an expensive suit. Despite everything, I laughed. You were an entitled asshole in an expensive suit. I was. His forehead touched mine. I still am. But I'm your entitled asshole now. The kiss that followed was different from Tokyo. Less desperate, more certain. A claiming, a promise, a point of no return. When we finally pulled apart, Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it and swore in Russian. What? Hale just sent an email to all my major clients. He's claiming I'm under investigation for fraud. Completely fabricated, but it'll cause problems. He was already typing a response. I need to do damage control. Call an emergency board meeting. What can I do? He looked at me, something fierce and grateful in his eyes. Stay. Just stay with me through this. Always, I said and meant it. Over the next 2 weeks, Vincent Hale escalated his campaign. Anonymous tips to regulatory agencies. Carefully worded articles in business publications questioning Meridian's practices. Mysterious cancellations from long-standing clients. Adrian handled it all with cold efficiency, but I could see the strain. The late nights grew later. The shadows under his eyes deepened. The rare smiles disappeared. I did what I could. Reached out to contacts we'd made in Singapore and Shanghai. Used my language skills to smooth ruffled feathers with international clients who were getting nervous. Stayed late at the office, working alongside Adrian, a silent presence that he seemed to draw strength from. One evening, as we reviewed documents at midnight in his office, Adrian's hand found mine across the desk. I don't say this enough, he said quietly. But thank you. For being here. For not running when things got difficult. Where would I run to? I squeezed his hand. You've ruined me for normal life, Cross. I can't go back to serving drinks and living paycheck to paycheck. Not after all this. Good. A ghost of his usual smirk appeared. That was always the plan. My phone rang. Miguel's ringtone. At midnight. My heart dropped. Miguel. What's wrong? Lena. His voice was scared. There's a man outside our house. He's just standing there, watching. Mom called the police, but they said he's not doing anything illegal, just standing on the sidewalk. But, Lena, I'm scared. Adrian was already on his feet, pulling out his own phone. I could hear him speaking in rapid Russian to someone as I tried to calm Miguel down. It's okay. Adrian's handling it. There are people nearby who will make sure you're safe. I hoped that was true. Is Mom with you? Yeah, she's here. She's scared too, but trying not to show it. Put her on. Mom's voice came through, tense but controlled. Elena, what's happening? Who is this man? It's complicated, Mom. But Adrian is fixing it. There will be security arriving any minute. Don't open the door for anyone except them. They'll identify themselves properly. Even as I said it, Adrian nodded, showing me his phone where he was texting with someone. Done, he mouthed. True to his word, 5 minutes later, Miguel reported that 2 SUVs had arrived. Professional-looking people had approached the man on the sidewalk, spoken to him briefly, and he'd left. Now those same professionals were introducing themselves to Mom, showing credentials, explaining they'd been contracted to provide security. After I hung up, Adrian pulled me into his arms. That was Hale's play, he said grimly. Scare your family. Make you feel vulnerable. Force you to choose between your safety and mine. He failed. I pulled back to look at him. You protected them. Like you promised. Always. His jaw was set. But this needs to end. Hale is escalating too quickly. If I don't stop him now, what are you going to do? His expression went cold, the warmth draining from his eyes. What I should have done 5 years ago. Destroy him completely. 2 days later, Adrian arranged a meeting. Not at Meridian's offices, but at a private club in the Gold Coast. Old money. Old power. The kind of place where deals were made over century-old scotch and handshake agreements meant more than contracts. I need you there, Adrian said as we dressed for the meeting. He was in one of his most expensive suits, his hair perfectly styled, every inch the ruthless businessman. Hale needs to see that his intimidation didn't work. That you're still with me. I wore a dress Adrian had picked out. Dark red, elegant but not revealing, powerful without being aggressive. Armor disguised as fashion. The club was everything I expected. Dark wood, leather chairs, oil paintings of men who'd been dead for centuries. We were shown to a private room where Hale waited with 2 men I didn't recognize. Adrian. Hale's smile was sharp. So good of you to finally agree to meet. Let's dispense with the pleasantries. Adrian gestured for me to sit beside him. You wanted my attention. You have it. Now what? Hale's eyes moved to me, calculating. Still keeping her around? Even after I offered her a fortune to leave you. Miss Martinez is quite happy where she is. For now. Hale leaned back. But how long before she realizes what you really are? What you really do? Enlighten her then. Adrian's voice was cold. If you have proof of wrongdoing, present it. If not, stop wasting my time. Hale pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. Your Russian clients. The ones you've been doing business with for 3 years. Did you tell Miss Martinez that 2 of them are on international watch lists? That the deals you facilitate help them move money out of Russia, bypassing sanctions? My stomach clenched, but I kept my expression neutral. Adrian didn't even glance at the folder. Everything I do is legal. Vetted by lawyers, cleared by compliance, documented thoroughly. If you had actual evidence of wrongdoing, you'd have gone to authorities. But you didn't, because there is none. Legal doesn't mean ethical. Hale's eyes fixed on me. Miss Martinez, do you really want to be part of this? Helping oligarchs hide their money while ordinary Russians suffer? Facilitating deals for arms manufacturers? Making it easier for... Enough. My voice cut through his speech. You threatened my family, Mr. Hale. My 12-year-old brother who just recovered from leukemia. So whatever moral high ground you think you're standing on, you lost it the moment you sent someone to terrorize a sick child. Hale's expression hardened. That wasn't me. Don't insult my intelligence. I stood, Adrian rising beside me. You want to destroy Adrian because he sent you to prison for actual crimes. You want what he's built because you can't build it yourself. And you thought threatening me would be the way to get it. You were wrong. Adrian's hand found the small of my back, warm and solid. We're done here, Hale. But understand this, if you come near her family again, if you make another move against my company, I will bury you. Not in legal proceedings. Not in court. I will systematically dismantle everything you're trying to rebuild. Your clients, your reputation, your future. All of it. You can't do that, Hale said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Can't I? Adrian pulled out his phone, tapped something, and showed Hale the screen. I've just purchased your biggest client. The Yamamoto Corporation. My lawyers are drafting termination notices for their contract with you as we speak. I've also acquired controlling interest in the building where your office is located. Your lease is void. You have 30 days to vacate. Hale's face went white. You can't. I can. I just did. Adrian's smile was terrifying in its coldness. And that's just the beginning. Every client you court, I'll offer better terms. Every deal you pursue, I'll interfere. Every step forward you try to take, I'll be there to push you back. This is personal vendetta, not business. You made it personal when you threatened her. Adrian's voice dropped to something dangerous. You could have come after me directly. We could have fought like professionals. But you involved her. You threatened her family. That was your mistake. We left Hale sitting in that private room, his expression a mixture of rage and fear. In the car, I turned to Adrian. Did you really buy the Yamamoto Corporation? I'd been planning to for 6 months. Hale's threats just accelerated the timeline. His hand found mine. But yes. I meant every word. That's a lot of money to spend on revenge. It's not revenge. It's protection. His gray eyes held mine. And you're worth it. Your family is worth it. Your peace of mind is worth every dollar. The certainty in his voice made my throat tight. What happens now? Now we go home. Tomorrow, we continue building what we've started. He brought my hand to his lips, kissing my knuckles gently. And Hale learns what happens when you threaten something I care about. True to Adrian's word, Vincent Hale's business collapsed within 3 weeks. Clients fled. His office closed. Rumors circulated that he'd moved to Europe, starting over with nothing. I should have felt guilty about my role in his destruction. Instead, I felt relief. And perhaps, something darker, satisfaction at seeing justice served, even if it came through Adrian's ruthless methods. Life settled into a new normal. Days at Meridian, working alongside Adrian, our professional relationship now layered with something deeper. Nights at my loft, or more often, at Adrian's penthouse, where we'd cook dinner together, discuss business over wine, fall asleep tangled in expensive sheets. Miguel's health continued to improve. He returned to school, joined the soccer team, started being a normal 12-year-old boy again. Mom even started dating a nice accountant named Frank, her first relationship since Dad died. On the surface, everything was perfect. But I'd learned enough about Adrian's world to know that perfect never lasted. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday evening. I was reviewing contracts in Adrian's office when Catherine knocked urgently. Mr. Cross. There's an FBI agent here to see you. Adrian's expression didn't change, but I felt him tense. Show him in. The agent was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and an off-the-rack suit that stood out in Meridian's expensive offices. Mr. Cross. Special Agent David Martinez. He showed his credentials. I need to ask you some questions about your business dealings with Volkov Enterprises. Volkov. The massive Russian businessman from that first meeting in Chicago. I remembered his cold eyes, his bodyguard, the way he and Adrian had spoken in Russian I couldn't quite follow. I'm happy to cooperate, Adrian said smoothly. Though I'll need my attorney present for any formal questioning. Of course. Martinez's eyes moved to me. And you are? Elena Martinez. I stood, extending my hand. Senior language consultant. Martinez. His eyebrow raised. Any relation? I doubt it. It's a common name. But something in his expression suggested he wasn't convinced. He handed Adrian a business card. Have your attorney call me. We'll arrange a formal interview. He glanced at me again. Miss Martinez, I may need to speak with you as well. About the translations you've provided. After he left, Adrian closed the office door and pulled me into his arms. This is about what Hale said, isn't it? I asked. The sanctions, the money movement? Probably. Adrian's jaw was tight. But everything I've done is legal. Documented. Defensible. Then why do you look worried? He pulled back to study my face. Because in investigations like this, legal isn't always enough. They'll scrutinize everything. Every transaction, every client meeting, every translation. Including mine. Including yours. His thumb brushed my cheek. Elena, I need you to understand something. If this gets serious, if they decide to pursue charges, you'll be interviewed, possibly subpoenaed. They'll ask about our relationship, about your work, about conversations you've overheard. I know. And you'll have to decide how much you're willing to say, how much you're willing to risk for me. The weight of that hung between us. This was different from Vincent Hale's threats. This was federal law enforcement. This was real danger, not just to Adrian's business, but potentially to both of us. Whatever they ask, I said slowly, I'll tell the truth. About my work, about what I've translated. But Adrian, I looked into his eyes. You need to tell me the truth first. All of it. So I know exactly what I'm defending. For a long moment, he was silent. Then he nodded, releasing me and moving to the window. Volkov Enterprises is one of my biggest clients. They pay Meridian 7 figures annually for consulting and translation services. Officially, we help them navigate Western business practices, facilitate legitimate transactions, provide cultural interpretation. And unofficially? Unofficially, some of the money they move is questionable in origin. Not drugs, not weapons, nothing directly illegal. But money from government contracts that maybe shouldn't have been awarded. From business deals that skirted Russian law. From sources that prefer to remain anonymous. My chest tightened. And you help them move this money? I help them structure legitimate business transactions. What they do with the money afterward, where it originally came from, that's not my concern. Or at least, that's how the law sees it. I'm a facilitator, not a conspirator. Is that how you see it? He turned to face me. I see it as business, Elena. Volkov pays for a service. I provide that service. Whether I approve of his other activities is irrelevant. And if the FBI decides you're doing more than providing a service? If they decide you're actively helping him violate sanctions? Then I go to prison. His voice was flat. For 5 to 10 years, most likely. And everyone associated with me gets pulled into the investigation. Including you. The fear that gripped me then was visceral. Not for myself, but for him. For this man who'd become everything to me. Who'd saved my brother, who'd given me a life I'd never imagined. We need a lawyer, I said. The best lawyer money can buy. A hint of his usual smirk appeared. I have several on retainer already. They're very good at making problems disappear. This isn't a problem, Adrian. This is the FBI. I know. He closed the distance between us again, pulling me close. But I've been preparing for something like this for years. Everything is documented. Everything is legal, even if it's morally ambiguous. They'll investigate, they'll find nothing concrete, and eventually they'll move on. You sound very sure. I am sure. I didn't build Meridian by being careless. His hand tangled in my hair. But I need you to be sure too, Elena. If you want out, now is the time. Before this gets messy. Before you're in too deep to extract yourself. I pulled back to look at him fully. You're giving me an out. I'm giving you a choice. A real one, not influenced by money or gratitude or... He hesitated. Or whatever feelings might have developed between us. Whatever feelings. I repeated. Adrian, I'm in love with you. You know that. The words hung in the air between us, finally spoken aloud after months of dancing around them. I know, he said quietly. And I'm in love with you. Which is why I'm giving you the chance to leave before I drag you down with me. What if I don't want to leave? Then you're either incredibly loyal or incredibly foolish. Maybe both. I kissed him, soft and certain. I'm not going anywhere. We face this together. His arms tightened around me. Together, he agreed. The FBI investigation lasted 4 months. 4 months of lawyers and interviews and document reviews. 4 months of stress that aged Adrian visibly, putting silver at his temples, lines around his eyes. I was interviewed 3 times. Always with a lawyer present. They asked about specific translations, about conversations I'd overheard, about the nature of my relationship with Adrian. I answered honestly. I'd translated business discussions, nothing illegal that I was aware of. Yes, Adrian and I were in a relationship. No, he'd never asked me to hide information or lie about anything. Special Agent Martinez seemed disappointed each time. Like he'd hoped I would crack, would give them the evidence they needed. But there was nothing to give. Everything Adrian had told me was true. His business with Volkov was structured legally, documented thoroughly, defensible in court. In the end, they closed the investigation without charges. Volkov, it turned out, had bigger problems. The Russian government had seized his assets, accused him of embezzlement. He'd fled to Dubai, leaving his American business interests in chaos. Adrian lost a major client, but gained something more valuable. A clean record. The FBI's investigation had scrutinized every aspect of Meridian and found nothing prosecutable. We celebrated quietly, just the 2 of us, in his penthouse overlooking the Chicago River. It's over, I said, still not quite believing it. This chapter is over, Adrian corrected, pulling me close. There will be other investigations, other competitors, other challenges. That's the nature of this business. Our business, I corrected. I'm not just your translator anymore, remember? I'm a partner now. After the investigation ended, Adrian had made it official. I was now part owner of Meridian International. Not just an employee, but someone with a stake in the company's future. Our business, he agreed, kissing my forehead. Elena, there's something I need to ask you. That sounds serious. It is. He pulled back, reaching into his pocket. When he drew out a small velvet box, my breath caught. I know this hasn't been conventional. Nothing about us has been. We started with a spilled drink and a dying brother and a desperate need on both sides. He opened the box to reveal a ring, a simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and understated. But somewhere along the way, it became real. You became essential. Not just to my business, but to my life. Tears blurred my vision. Adrian. I'm not promising easy, Elena. I can't. My world will always be complicated, sometimes dangerous, occasionally morally questionable. But I can promise that you'll never face it alone. That I'll protect you and your family with everything I have. That I'll love you until my last breath. He took my hand. Will you marry me? I should have hesitated. Should have thought about the implications, the risks, the complications. But standing there, looking at this man who'd transformed my life in ways both beautiful and terrifying, I knew there was only one answer. Yes. The kiss that followed tasted like relief and joy and the promise of a future that would be anything but boring. Miguel was 14 now, healthy and thriving, already talking about college and maybe studying business. Like you and Adrian, he'd said, making me laugh. Mom married Frank in a small ceremony in San Diego. Adrian flew the whole family out, spared no expense, gave her away since Dad couldn't be there. Meridian International expanded into new markets. Africa, South America, Southeast Asia. I learned Portuguese and improved my Arabic, building a team of translators who understood what this work really meant. And Adrian and I settled into married life, which looked different than I'd ever imagined. We split time between Chicago and Singapore, between boardrooms and hotel suites, between danger and domesticity. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about that Valentine's Day when I spilled a martini and accidentally changed my entire life. About how a single moment of clumsiness had led to everything. The job, the danger, the love, the partnership. Adrian would find me on those nights, standing by whatever window looked out on whatever city we were in, and pull me into his arms. Regrets? He'd ask like he always did. Never, I'd answer like I always did, because it was true. For all the complications, all the investigations, all the moral ambiguities of our world, I wouldn't change a single thing. I'd chosen this life. Chosen him. And every day, I'd choose him again. They say some people collect art. Others collect cars. Adrian Cross collected secrets and built an empire from them. But in the end, what he really collected was me. And I, willingly, wonderfully, dangerously, became part of his collection. The most valuable piece he'd ever acquired. And the only one he'd never let go. From broke waitress to business partner. From nobody to someone who matters. All because one night, I spilled a drink on the wrong man. Or maybe, exactly the right man. Thanks for staying with me until the end. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected moments. Sometimes danger and love are two sides of the same coin. And sometimes, just sometimes, being collected by someone powerful isn't a trap. It's a transformation. I'm Elena Cross now. And this is just the beginning. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button for more stories like this.